I mean, sorry, I look a
Yeah,
little slobby.
we're live. We're live now, so there's no
Ooh, how exciting.
going back. Thank you very much, Christian Finnegan. It's been too long. People must be very excited to see you here with me that are lovers of yours.
I just can't imagine the level of excitement that people must be feeling. I mean, I mean, it's Christmas in July.
I bet you I could describe that level of excitement. I bet it was similar to the level of excitement that you had and that your audience had when you performed at your dad's elder care facility a week ago.
Yeah, nice segue. Yes, this is true. As people out there may know, I'm kind of a big deal stand-up comedian, and I get a lot of prestigious gigs around this country, and none more prestigious than the Atria Marlin Place Assisted Living Facility in Andover, Massachusetts.
Who books that? Asking for a friend.
My dad, interestingly. Yeah, so the short, yeah, dude.
Why would you say yes?
I'm an idiot, to keep that in mind. And also, I always try to think of, when it comes to being a good son and tending to my father's needs, I always ask myself, what's the least I can do? And this felt, well, I mean, I actually did tell him, I was like, there's so many things that like I can't do as a son. Like there's so many things I can, i.e. give him grandchildren, which I know he desperately wishes he had.
Did you do that? Did you do that joke?
No. But no, I did not. But anyways, like, but this is one thing I actually could do. We were talking, and he was, without meaning to. I mean, every conversation you have with your adult parent over the age of 75 is a guilt trip, whether they want it to be or not. But he was like, could you please, like, could you come and do some stand up at the Atria, which is the place he lives? And I said, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. And I was thinking, like, 10 minutes. Do 10 minutes of stand up at the end of the, soup or whatever. And then after I already agreed, and he's like, so I'd like you to do an hour. And I said, Dad, no one wants that. No one wants that. No one wants that, or no one needs that. And he's like, he started getting really weird. He's like, but the entertainment hour is from 3 to 4 p.m. And if the whole hour isn't allotted for, then that could cause problems and disruptions. And so I haggled him down to 40 minutes. And and then I basically told him, I was like, how about I do 40 minutes and I tell everyone in the audience that it was, or I'm sorry, how about I do 20 minutes and tell everyone it was 40? Like, how many people would know, honestly? But I ended up doing, I think I did close to 45, which
so you were fun. You had fun.
Nah, I wouldn't say that. Oh. There is something in me that first of all, I always want to do my time. I mean, that's like a comedian ego thing. I think you know how it is. It's like, if you're contracted to do a certain amount of time, you want to do that time. You don't want to feel like the gig defeated you. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than being like, how much time do I have left? And they're like, 20 minutes. You're like, I think I'm done. So the hardest part of it, honestly, what I was trying to explain to my dad is like, Dad, you don't understand. Like, first of all, roughly 1/3 of my material, at least, is filth. If not sexual and just inappropriate for that venue. And another, if you take that 1/3 out, another third of my material is like very morbid or very like not appropriate for people who are ready to take the next stage in human development into
right
that way. Yeah. So it's like, so I was digging through like bits from 20 years ago. Like, I was trying to find like, all right, what am I going to entertain these people with?
Fine, whatever it takes. Yeah.
And of course, like, I had to relearn. Have you ever had to relearn your own stand-up? Like, you're doing a bit that's like
mine's not that smart. Old people love filth.
It's kind of like when you do a college. The students want filth and the faculty wants filth, but the faculty does not want filth in front of the students.
Got it.
And vice versa. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you can't. Yeah. So it's like the staff there is not open to that, and it's probably for the best. As I think I went to visit my dad, and he's 80, which is very young for the residents of his facility. He's a spring chicken.
Okay.
But he acts 90, but he is 80. And
you must have made him look good to all his.
I did. It was really weird how much he wanted the sort of props. It's really important, like his status among the other residents. At one point he said to me, he's like, because he thinks that the faculty, the staff, like loves him. And he's like, of all the residents here, I am the most beloved.
That is hilarious.
And I had to tell him that, Dad, that is like the elderly man's version of, I think the stripper is into me.
Geez, I have not thought hardly at all. I'm lucky that my parents are still with us and doing great and living together at my childhood home and doing all kinds of, but I haven't thought at all about the culture of one of these, however people describe them best, because part of that is because they're all seemingly so different. Some are higher end, some are bare bones, some are for this population, some are for that.
My dad lives as a sweatshop. Basically, they make small iPhone pieces, and they're chained to sewing machines.
They're able-bodied, and so they need to be put to work.
Yes, exactly. They're but yeah, no, I mean, I think my dad's is kind of like mid-tier. It's like, it's nice, but it's not a Cadillac, but it's not a Yugo either.
Not to get too deep at all. I mean, we can have fun with this. It's not that deep, but your dad's 80. He lives at this place. Don't we want people to like us, be impressed with us, feel important in our community, especially if it's kind of insular like this? At 80, are we supposed to be all Buddha and enlightened and not care what anybody thinks and not need anybody's approval? I can see it both ways or somewhere in between. Everybody's different, but it seems pretty normal. And I'm sure if I were in that situation, or if I am, I'm going to want everybody to know me and like, well, I'm not going to change that way.
Yeah, I know you definitely, you would be down there glad handing. And that's the thing about my dad is I think this is true of a lot of people. My dad is actually a very solitary person. He's a person who spends 90% of his life alone by himself. And that was actually one of the reasons that I was encouraging him to move out of his condo.
Yeah. Just
because his dog passed away like 8 months ago, and that was kind of his only reason to leave the house, and so his sleep, he has sleep issues too. And so it's like, he was sleeping till like 3 p.m. and not going to bed until 5 a.m. And so that's where we're like, all right, it's time to make this transition. And so, I think my dad, like a lot of people, I think he spends most of his time alone, like a lot of men. But when he is amongst people, he wants to feel appreciated or respected, like it means something to him. And I'm not trying to mock that. It means something to me too. I mean, we all want to be, but he's, my dad's the kind of guy who will shout out the Jeopardy answers.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's so it's like, he wants people to be like, oh, wow, Bob Finnegan knew that one.
Made me laugh that you made fun of me about how who I would be glad handing. Go deeper though. Like, who am I I'm 80. There's I don't even know enough. I don't even know if I visited one of these.
You would be running the Silver Sneakers fitness program.
Okay.
If those ones where they're all sitting in chairs and they're lifting like 2-pound weights.
Exercise, or maybe if there was a pool, I'd probably get in there and do some.
Yeah. Little aqua aerobics or whatever they call that
stuff. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah. Squeezing in a bit or two.
Yeah, you're doing some crowd work. Very important.
Yeah, I love that you didn't even allow me to have a bit. You'd be like, no, crowd work.
Maybe not so much material, but you'd be a good MC.
It's great.
I know I've told you this joke before. There's a mass murder event at a comedy club in the middle of a comedy show, and there's dead bodies and blood everywhere. And afterwards, they're interviewing all the witnesses, and they're sitting down with one of the comedians, and the investigator says, "So let me get this straight. You were the host of the show tonight?" And he says, "Usually I feature."
It's so good. It's a great joke. I love it. And it is.
Yeah. I mean, for people who don't know comedians, that's basically, it's like you're always, whenever anyone says that you're at like level B, you want to
Always
try to convince them that
yeah.
you're actually I'm level C. Like I'm actually a higher level than you think I am.
Don't have to be a comic to understand exaggerating where you are in life. Just a little bit,
Mhm.
a lot. You know, by the way,
Um,
you mentioned having sleep issues. You and I were talking about that before we went live here. I see my friend Tina Winsett is joining us live, watching live. And I just have to say this about you guys, because I know she has sleep issues. It's probably the issue that I have the least amount of empathy for, because I look at
I
you,
didn't know where that sentence was going to go, but it wasn't there.
I look at you people and I go, it's the best thing you can do to get away from your problems or your anxiety. What is wrong? Just go to sleep. And then you'll escape. I just did it. It was amazing.
I know. I mean, and like I said, I fall asleep all fucking day. I fell asleep in the shower once,
Oh,
which
wow.
is impressive. And I was constantly in like elementary school and junior high, falling asleep in classes. I had a teacher once who I fell asleep in the middle of algebra class, and this is pretty sweet actually. She quietly had all the other students leave at the end of the class. And so when I woke up, it was literally just me and her staring at me.
That is funny as hell.
Because I would be like, no, I wasn't falling asleep. I wasn't falling asleep at all. I had a teacher once pull me out of class, and he was like the English teacher who was like former hippie guy, and he was like, "Come on, man, tell me what you're on. I know you're on something. You can tell me." Because he assumed I was a drug addict because I was just nodding off in class. I mean, I did look like a junkie because I was just like my nose just like constantly dipping down. But yeah, it sucks. And for people who don't understand that, count your lucky stars.
Yeah. No, it's very insensitive of what I said to be not sensitive to sleep issues. A lot of people have them. Most people, I feel like most people, or maybe you're like vegans. You tend to talk about them more.
It's possible. That is entirely possible. No, I do worry. Like I worry driving at times. Like I will almost punch myself in the face sometimes when I'm driving to make sure that I don't get drowsy. Like I will yank on, like I'll grab my hair at the back of my neck by the root and start yanking on it as like a way to like wake myself up.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Tell me when I start sounding weird, Pete.
Okay, let me go to my list of items that I want to ask you about, because we haven't talked in way too long, and I wanted to ask you. I've had this rant that I've been unleashing whenever possible, wherever possible, and including
Unleash it.
It's just this idea. I don't have to do it here. I want to hear your version of it. What do you think about the idea that you should only be able to have access to health insurance if you go to work? Because my point is healthcare is a human right. Every country in the world that's civilized offers everybody health insurance. And I personally think that if you stay at home and play video games and masturbate and smoke pot, you don't do anything as a productive member of your family, your society, or anything else, that's right, you still deserve health insurance. And if on top of all those things, you're also an asshole, yep, you still get health insurance like every other country. This idea that they're pushing, that they've said so many different ways and times about this and other social safety net programs, you can only get it if you go to work. It's health insurance. It's not like you're getting a check every month. Yeah. It's just health. It's like a just in case you get sick or injured thing. What do you think about the argument and that talking point? What do you say? That's really what I'm trying to get to.
Well, I think it's a way of, I think there's something that a lot of people in America do, which is to alleviate our own sense of guilt. We will say, well, that person should have done A, B, or C, and therefore I can stop thinking about it. They didn't do the thing, so I don't have to, like, oh, you got breast cancer and now you're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and your kids aren't, basically taking, you have your kids are home taking care of you and taking care of your other children or whatever. It's like, well, you didn't work enough, and so therefore I don't have to let that cognitive dissonance get to me. You didn't do your, if you were working hard, this wouldn't be a problem, so therefore it's not my fault. I of course, the whole that whole argument about like you should be working if you want health insurance, it completely ignores the fact that we have moved to a gig economy over the past 25 years, to the extent that like fewer and fewer people actually get job health insurance covered by their employer. Fewer and fewer people have one employer. It's we're they try to argue two things that are contradictory to each other, which is that governments, or businesses rather, should be not have to do all these regulations and, you know, entrepreneur spirit, and you should be able to start up small businesses, small business. It's like, well, most of the small businesses don't provide health insurance. So if you're going to sort of try to support small business as a model for the country, which I think is a good thing, it's a very good thing, well, then you can't at the same time make all health insurance employer based, because none of these small businesses can afford health insurance. And it's just not a moral issue to me. I mean, it's a moral issue, but not in the way I'm saying. Whether or not you get insurance is not like whether, it's not a question of deserving it. It's
Right.
just everyone gets it. Everyone gets it. It's like saying like, I'm not going to let you drive on this road unless I know you have a job, or I'm not going to let you call the fire department unless you have a job. It's like we have a government to perform certain functions, and for some reason we've roped off health, like physical, actual health, as something that is not under the umbrella of what a government is supposed to provide. I mean, what the fuck do people think life, liberty, in pursuit of happiness means? Like, what does life mean to you? When you say that people have a right to life, I mean, to me, that means being alive. And how are you kept alive? By being able to go to a doctor and being able to get dental checkups, and not dying because you were too afraid to go to an urgent care, or you were afraid to call an ambulance because the ambulance is going to cost you $3,000 or something. You know, I mean, and not only, just aside from any sort of moral implications of it, I think it's just more cost effective at the end of the day as well.
For sure. For all parties.
Yeah, I mean, the trickle down effect, even that quote unquote like undeserving person who's playing video games, whatever the cliche people want to use, it's like the downstream effects of that person not having health insurance affect everyone around them, affects their family, affects their employee. It's like, oh, the guy I was depending on, the manager, I own a restaurant, and the general manager, who I can't afford to pay health insurance for, or whatever, one of the servers, one of the bartenders, whatever, he didn't go to the doctor for 6 months, even though he had a horrible pain in his chest or whatever. And now he's out of work for 3 months because he didn't deal with this in a timely fashion. He didn't get regular checkups or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's people who do this stuff for a living who could put some numbers behind this, but I really feel like a general level of care for every single person in this country would more than pay for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially insurance itself, it's just paper pushing.
Yeah.
It's not some technically challenging concept. It's insurance. It's really a pretty fundamentally easy thing for people to understand how to qualify, get covered with, and then hopefully be taken care of, at least in some way, when something happens. I love all of the things that you said about it. It's just so outrageous to see it explained so inaccurately, so dishonestly about how it works. And by the way, what their solutions would mean, and just misrepresenting who's on or qualifies for insurance. You know, like every policy that we talk about, they lie about, or they misrepresent, or they exaggerate, but you know, they want people to prove that they're working. To your point about the gig economy, like, what a nightmare. That only creates way more bureaucracy for those who distribute or administer government insurance, because now they got to go through your paperwork, and now I got to go and register. Yeah, I worked 8 weeks or 10 hours this week, or it's preposterous.
And then somebody has to file that and make sure that you're updated in the spreadsheet. You know, it's all a complete waste of money. And also, it's a way to keep certain people, and this is going to sound a little tinfoily, but it's a way to keep a certain class of people in a certain low-level job, or we talk so much about in this country about entrepreneurial spirit and starting your own startup and founders, and all that crap. But at the end of the day, they really, and I say they, capital in this country, the financial interests in this country, they want 60 to 75% of us kind of stuck in our shitty jobs. They don't really want people, trying to start new things. They want the opportunity. They want the ability to found companies and to sort of
they can't
but they need people stuck doing their shitty jobs. And the way to do that is to tether health insurance to that shitty job so that people don't feel like they have the mobility to try their own thing. They would much rather, the vast majority of people just kind of stay making their lives possible. Like, I need you to stay doing your job so that I can have freedom. I need you to be unfree so I can be free, is essentially.
I mean, I think you may be giving much credit to elitists in terms of what the agenda might be, rather than just saving money or not having to pay out insurance policies. Although you could argue it's also, competitive thing to have at your job, but not in lower skilled jobs necessarily, where there's going to be more people that are applying for a lot of those work before robots take them over. But you know what? Those elites can never stop me from becoming an entrepreneur, a successful influencer on Instagram with millions of followers. I think
only you can stop yourself from doing that.
As a newly separated, living in an apartment, finding out who he is influencer. That's going to be my niche. That's going to be my brand. What do you think?
Who am I, influencer? Like
it's like for men and other people and women who are, newly separated and they're in transition. That's going to be my whole Instagram brand. And I won't need any insurance. I'm going to make so much money. This is really more of a joke about, I can't believe how many people there are with millions and millions of followers on any number of platforms. I just have to assume they're all making pretty good money if they have that much of a
yes, but then I always wonder, like, what does this crap even mean anymore? I'm at a crucial point where I need to decide, am I going to really try to make my career happen again or not? I
want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that brainstorming.
I appreciate it, but I'm saying in terms of like social media, Cambria has been very enthusiastic about me, at the very least, like uploading old stand-up clips onto TikTok and stuff like that. Like, there's no and she's right. There's no reason, like, because like Comedy Central will upload an old clip of mine on Comedy Central, and they're getting all those views and potentially revenue. And like, I totally understand that.
Wouldn't you do that? Because it's a painful, annoying process, and it's
a painful, annoying process. I feel embarrassed by it. My own Gen X bullshit, my own issues about like seeming too thirsty and desperate for attention. Like, whatever. All of my indefensible issues.
That's all real shit. I can totally relate to all of that. Yeah.
But also, there's a part of it that I just find not even just non-artistic. I find it anti-artistic. That I am now, instead of competing with other comedians and other artists, many of whom you may not like or respect, but at least you understand that what they're doing could be held under the umbrella of performing or artistic endeavor. I'm now competing with people who there's a woman who pops up in my wife's feed all the time who just chews like ASMR videos of like a woman eating her food like right in front of her microphone. So it's just 45 minutes of.
I have a woman. Let's just do this for a second. But I think I don't think
I'm in competition with that now. That's who I'm. Yes, so it's not even artists. It's like a million people dangling keys going, hey, hey, hey. And so
technically you are in competition with that. And I totally understand the point. I've made similar points over and over about how you work on something for a long time, a bit, a song, or whatever, and then you put it on stage and you tape it, and you share it. It's 600 views. Meanwhile, person chewing gum, 1 billion views, and it's a bit discouraging. But at the same time, I just want to make one or two more observations of people who do this. I know a woman who plays clips of the news, like of right-wing people saying doing crazy shit. She plays the clip while she sits there and points at it and makes faces.
I know. It's depressing.
What? She's
It's
just
profoundly
playing
depressing.
it,
But that's what I'm saying. It's like
watching her watch it, I guess.
yeah.
Today she did it. I watched one, and she ate a potato chip. And I watched her eat the chip. I'm like, oh, she's gonna put the chip in her mouth while I was watching, Charlie Kirk or something. Like, what? Thousands of views. I'm like,
I know, and I act like I'm somehow above it. I am 100% a participant in this culture.
I'm not even sure about if I'm like, this is the world we're living in, that certain people doing certain things gets crazy, and we're not even getting started on just attractive people, attractive people doing nonsense is also.
But I don't even. I mean, I think I've told you I am a huge fan of the YouTube genre of reaction videos, which is kind of what you're talking about. But generally, what I watch are music related, where it's like Gen Z kid hears Rush for the first time, where it's some person hearing music that is either not from their generation or not from their culture.
That's not what that's actually it. That's interesting, watching someone enjoy something for the first time that you've
been. It is.
That's more, I like that. That's fun.
It's better than just sort of snarky, like, check out this novel.
I like watching people get scared, and I like it more than anything in the world, and it's also, by the way, to me, the very funniest thing in the world is not the funniest joke or anything else that's funny, or someone slipping and falling, which is hilarious. Those those are very, very funny. The funniest thing to me is someone being scared by somebody else, and when they do that thing where they shake, like, to me, that's the greatest, funniest thing.
You're right. It is great. And it's hard for me to admit that that's fun, because as someone who is brutally startleable, I am extremely frightenable. So it hurts so good.
Let's get into something else I wanted to ask you about, which is on my list here. Jeffrey Epstein. Are you familiar with his work?
Yeah, I feel like I wanted to quote that famous Jim Downey bit. Have you ever seen when he was on Conan, where he's like,
that's what I was doing. I just saw
Jeff Epstein, the financier.
Yeah.
It's so great. So I am familiar with Mr. Epstein and his
how much time are you giving it? How much are you thinking about it? I'm pretty fascinated just by the simple fact that MAGA has seemingly no problem. They can't not know, but maybe no problem with that Trump and Epstein were best friends and hung out for years and years and years.
The amount of
and
cognitive distance, like, yeah.
Dead, and the list isn't being. I don't think Trump killed him or had him killed, but it would be it would be a perfect motive for the most powerful man in the world to have him killed or look the other way, and then of course not let this list out. And watching Don Bongino and Kash Patel, who ranted about it on their radio shows, where's the Epstein list now? Be like, there's no list. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, he's dead, and watch them all get raked. Like, what are your thoughts about the whole thing?
Well, I mean, there's a term, burned by the fire we made, which is what's happening to these people. It's like, I don't know if there was ever a list. I don't think that there was ever like an actual like written down list. I do think, I don't think that he was murdered, but I do think you've seen The Godfather, I assume. Have you seen The Godfather Part 2?
Yep.
Frank Pantangeli, Frankie Five Angels, who the guy who is going to rat on Marco Corleone, and then he Robert Duvall goes and visits him in prison and says like, oh, maybe you should kill yourself, and then and he bleeds out in the bathtub. I think that's what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. I think this happened under the plausibly deniable supervision of Bill Barr. I said Bill Burr. Bill Barr was there. It was brutal. The guy killed himself. It's brutal. Anyway, I
don't know what happened. I wasn't even watching.
Yeah. I think that basically either he was allowed to be left alone so that he could kill himself, or they basically gave him like a cyanide pill or like something peaceful, something that was like non-violent, and said like, this is your way out. Like, and then they set it up to look like a suicide. I do think that, or at least that, or like I said, they just kind of like conveniently let the guard go on break, and hey, whatever you want to do in the next hour, if you want to commit suicide, now would be the time. And I think it would be really strange. I would have a really difficult time believing that Jeffrey Epstein did not keep some kind of compromat. I don't mean like an actual list of clients, but it's like just as a matter of self-protection, if nothing else. If the most powerful men in the world, the richest, most powerful men in the world, were fucking teenagers in my house, I think I would want to protect myself slightly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would want to have some sort of like evidence that they were willing participants in this. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I would be surprised if there wasn't some sort of videotape or pictures or something originally, but I think they've long since been destroyed. I don't think anything exists anymore. I think that there's probably a mutually assured destruction vibe that I think everyone was just like, oh, just burn all of it. Like, you know, whatever was in that house, I think has long since been torched. But I think that the idea of this list, which apparently like the first mention of a list was like on like a QAnon message board. It wasn't like a reputable news source. And it was just one of these things that bubbled up. And then it was very useful to the Kash Patels and Don Bonginos of the time to fuel this. And then they were the dog that caught the car. And now they have to, so either they were either lying then or they're lying now, or both. But it's either one, they never really believed there was a list, but they understood it was going to be a great cudgel to wield against Biden and Democrats in general. And now they have to contend with the fact that they have been caught in their own lie. Or two, they thought there was a list. I just refuse to believe that they genuinely thought that there was going to be some Epstein list, and then like, oh, well, turns out, because if that was true, they would be releasing every single bit of info they have. If there was no list, they would be putting out more stuff to see like, here's everything we found.
Well, they did they did give a binder to all the MAGA people who had been railing on it, and apparently there was nothing.
No, yeah, I think they just went to like the Jeffrey Epstein Wikipedia page and hit print. I think is what they did, and then put it in the binder.
It matters. You know, you saw Trump yesterday be like, why are you still asking about Epstein? What is with this? Well, you're obsessed with Epstein. Why are you asking about him?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different stories to it. I mean, it's obviously you don't want to downplay sexual assault of children and whatnot, but I mean, this is the story that they made. This was their calling. This was their path back to power in this country, is sort of on the backs of these conspiracies, and was the animating. I'm not saying that every person that went to vote was voting for or against who they thought had been to Epstein's Island, but the real foot soldiers of the MAGA movement, the online warriors, the Alex Jones acolytes, and the Tucker Carlson people and the Rogan people or whatever, they were animated by this quote unquote, I don't know, controversy, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy. They were animated, and that created an energy that allowed Donald Trump to make it back to the White House. And so, you know, of course, the problem is that I think a lot of Democrats kind of always assumed that there wasn't an actual physical list, because this isn't an episode of 24. This is real life. And so as a result, Democrats are going to end up just like letting it go. Whereas if we were Republicans, this would be news every night for the rest of the year.
To the hilt. Right. So many other things I want to ask you. I know we don't have too much time left, but I don't know if you got to go, but I definitely got to ask you. I guess I'm looking at my list, the big bad bill, tariffs, trade wars, Supreme Court, the Texas flood. But I guess the one other thing I have on my list that I know I have to ask you about is Zohran Mamdani, because what was your wife's role in his campaign, and what was your familiarity with him and of course Christian lives in Queens, and I just want to get your thoughts on his big primary win and kind of
man, yeah, we haven't talked since then, have we?
Yeah, I kept meaning to talk to you or Cambry, and I just
Cambry was actually working for the campaign as a canvasser. Like, she was like an employee of the campaign for the 6 weeks or so leading up to the election. I went out just one day and did some door knocking, but she was actually a paid employee. And it's a kind of a cool thing. I mean, he was our assemblyman here in Astoria. And he, before he even was elected to state assembly, you know, I think he had done some sort of fundraiser at QED, which is the venue that my wife used to own. And she had worked with him in various capacities during the pandemic and things like that, and always found him to be like a real, like, positive, smart, well-intended guy. But I mean, not in a million years did I, even in a week before the election, even when I was volunteering or you know, or trying to facilitate Cambry's volunteering and whatnot, I didn't really think it was a realistic possibility. I mean, I was there. There was a giant DSA watch party at the beer garden, which is right across the street from our apartment. And so there were probably, I don't know, 700-800 people there. I'm bad at beans in a jar, but being able to watch those results come in and to not be horrified. Like, it's been so long since I had an election night that wasn't either horribly depressing or just like I barely made it, like, sigh of relief.
And that would have,
you know what I mean?
Tough to see Andrew Cuomo win. So that's the other.
I mean, I had prepared myself for that eventuality. Well, and I thought that even if
you prepared yourself, just punch yourself in the dick for a day. Like, how do you mentally prepared for Cuomo to be?
Pete, I am always ready to be disappointed. Let's be very clear about that. It is never. I expect the worst. Generally speaking, but it had been so long to be able to experience, like, oh my God, something good is happening. I mean, first of all, and I don't think there's been one good thing that's happened since then, but it was a pretty magical experience to be amongst all these people who were just so excited and thrilled and were in it for the right reasons. And you know, I don't know, man. It just, for a brief moment, it's like you could see a glimpse of a better politics, of a better, you know, a better way of public service, is how I would say it. And I mean, I'm just amazed at the guy. Honestly, I'm amazed at his ability to stay on message, and because all the things that I've never called myself DSA, Democratic Socialists, like, I've never considered myself a member of the DSA because I never really have taken them seriously. I think it's because being in comedy, and especially in, like, the Lower East Side, quote unquote, alternative comedy scene, I knew a lot of people who identified themselves as socialists, and none of them you would let pet sit for you. I used to say that you shouldn't be allowed to call yourself a socialist until you've had a socialist as a roommate for a year. And so I had never really taken them seriously, also because I felt like, oh, you guys just want to fight. Like, you guys just want to argue. You want to lose and then be able to make fun of the people who win.
They need to rebrand that democratic socialism. Heather Cox Richardson had a great 4-minute thing I'll include. I think I can include in today's show, just kind of going back to the history of demagoguing, the idea of socialism. But what he believes, and what most that identify as that believe in theory, is not a classic sense of socialism where the state, you know, takes everything over, and it's far different. And I mean, you know, how do you define his list of priorities with a political brand? I don't know, but it's a pretty attractive idea for most people, what he would like to do, and what other members of the DSA, if you called it something else, want to do. It would be very popular if you just.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they just called it New Deal Democrat, he's an FDR Democrat. You know, I think is the easiest way. That's the way I know my wife and I, when I've had conversations with, like, my dad and, you know, my relatives that are older or whatnot, I just say he's an FDR Democrat.
Makes
like,
sense.
That's all it is. Just
but most people probably don't even know what that means, and you got to update it.
But, yeah, but it's just, but more than that, it's like all the things that I kind of would make fun of fringe parties as being kind of like, oh, you guys just want to smoke pot and, you know, and feel like rebels, but you don't actually want to win or exercise the actual political acumen to take power. Mamdani does all that. He's it's not just that his intellectual and political ducks are in a row. He's disciplined. He's polished. He seems to be indefatigable. Like, you know, he's just, I've never seen him like flag in an interview. Like there's no, he's just able to maintain a level of concentration that I think is helpful. I think it's easier to be like that when you're not constantly having to calibrate your responses. That he has actual values, and and he knows what they are.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have to sell himself like, wait, what did my advisor tell me? How was I supposed to answer this one? Or what's the most politically evasive way I can get around this? Like, I really, and I'm not even talking about just him being a democratic socialist or whatever. It's so refreshing to just see a politician who knows what he believes and is willing to say it, and it doesn't seem like he's auditioning. He doesn't. It's not like it doesn't seem like he's meeting his girlfriend's family for the first time every time he makes a political speech.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he seems like a guy who actually is ready to do the job.
Last thing I want to ask you is the biggest or most serious thing seemingly happening imminently and daily is these mass deportations, the raids. You're seeing them everywhere online. You may have witnessed one in real life. If you haven't yet, you probably will, given the fact that this legislation is going to be funding ICE billions more, giving them as many resources, as many concentration camps, and anything that they'll need to harass and take anybody, including probably plenty of people who are just, minding their own business, American citizens who have done nothing wrong, the oopsies, if you will. How are you thinking about it, dealing with it emotionally? Do you think there's any change in sight with it? Does it,
well, I mean, I think the last time we spoke, I remember I said something that has been on my mind since then, which is that things getting better and things getting worse look identical in the short term. That it's like there is a path to things getting much worse, and there's also a path to things getting better. But both of those paths look like this right now, of like more raids and more ICE people on the street, because I do feel like there is people have to wake the fuck up and see what's really going on, and I think there's too many people in this country who think this is all performative and cosmetic, and they don't actually think it's going to affect their lives or the people that they work with or the neighbors that they have. And so I certainly would love it if every ICE agent quit tomorrow and the whole agency folded up. But I do think that the more hard they go at this, the more people are going to start waking up and seeing that this is not sustainable. It's just not sustainable as a country to have military roaming the streets, gathering up farm workers. It's just setting aside the moral aspects of it. It's just not the way a country can function.
Right.
It just doesn't work. And I don't know. I mean, I really think that I hope the Democrats keep pushing with this notion of making the agents not be able to wear masks and to have ID and badges. Like, first of all, not only because that's morally correct, but also I think I think that a lot of the ICE agents will quit if they're forced to not wear masks. I think a lot of them.
I don't know why you think that. They probably love.
I disagree, and it's not just the doxing. I do think that there's a lot of people, maybe 20%. There's 20% of these people who will quit the minute that they have to show their faces during these raids, because their families will make them, their children, their wives, they won't embarrass their families. And also it's like, I don't believe that all of these, yes, I know there's a ton of neo-Nazis and fascists and stormtroopers who are loving life, riding around in their Dodge minivans with an AK-47 strapped to their chest. Like, yes, I'm sure that's true. But I do think that there are a lot of people who this is not really the way they envision spending their adult lives, is rounding up grandmothers.
You think a lot of people that are doing this work are finding it not. They're not feeling.
Yeah, I do think that they're I wouldn't say that they're feeling guilt about it, but that it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them are having a hard time sleeping at night.
I hope you're right about that. You're wrong.
I hope so too. I could very well be wrong, but
you're wrong when you say they're carrying AK-47. That's not a government issue.
So sorry.
assault rifle. That would be something the Viet Cong used. It's a Russian-made rifle.
Kalashnikov, or what
Americans would be more likely to use an AR-15 in that kind of situation. So,
thank you, Pete. You know, you would, if you wore different clothes, you could pull off being one of those guys super easy.
But I always seemingly a little gay.
I've never thought of you as seeming at all. I think of you as being very straight coded. I do. I mean, maybe I'm basically strawberry shortcake, so I'm not like the person.
I think I'm pretty straight coded for the most part, which is why I can get away with a lot of the gay jokes. But also, there's a few.
Well, it's because you have such poor taste, and usually, if you were gay, you'd have better taste.
Right.
Is what it is.
That is a really good point. I do keep some of my preferences private just in case, so like, you know, how much I love Les Mis or something like that. But
yeah. Do you actually love Les Mis?
I saw it 4 times on Broadway.
Holy shit. I didn't know that. You know that Cambry and I, a couple years ago for a concert at QED, we performed the confrontation, you know, between Javert and Valjean, you know.
I can't talk about it. I just said I like the show.
Valjean, at last we see each other plain.
I gotta go.
Okay. It's probably for the best.
Because I'm super straight. I don't even like talking about it. So unless you want to talk about horse
I mean, again, and I'm not, there's not a value judgment, but I'm just saying it's like, you know, you have a giant Batman and Superman torso behind you on the shelf.
Yeah, I get, okay.
I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, they are very beefy, muscly men. So, I mean, I'm sure that there is, I don't mean to project gender roles.
I love a beefy. Everybody that knows me knows I love Alan Richson, the new Reacher.
That is true. Oh my God, you are a big Reacher guy. Reach-arounder. You're a Reach-arounder. That's what Reacher fans should be called, Reach-arounders.
I am. I will. Whatever it takes. Assumptions will kill you. Details matter. Christian Finnegan, those are Reacher quotes. Thank you so much. I know you were staring at me like I was Al Qaeda.
No, I thought it was Sun Tzu.
Thanks,
I thought it was Simone de Beauvoir. I had no idea it was Reacher.
Go see Christian August 9th in Beacon.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for remembering
that. The Howland and Beacon, if you're anywhere in New York State.
Yeah, if you're anywhere in up there in Hudson Valley, come see me at the Howland Cultural Center Saturday, August 9th. You check that out.
Subscribe to New Music for Old.
Yes, which has been on a little bit of a tiny mini hiatus because I had to go do stand up at my dad's assisted living facility.
Well, it'll be back ASAP, I hope.
Indeed, it will.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye,
Pete.
everybody.
Bye.